I guess we'll start with the audience. Would you like to ask a question or make a comment?
Are we on? Testing, 1, 2, 7. Rightio, what we'll do, we've only got one mic, so anyone who would like to ask a short, sharp, concise question, pop down, make a little line down here, and in that aisle there as well, and I'll bounce back and forth and pass you a microphone.
We'll try to be brief. I think, I'm not sure what our cutoff is. I'm gauging around 9 or so, but we'll just go and do what we can for as quickly as we can here. 45 minutes. Okie dokes. What's your name?
Shauna. My question is to Seth. I don't know your history, and I'm curious to know what the catalyst was for you to leave your faith, or how deeply embedded you were in that. I mean, for myself, I knew from about 5 years of age that I wasn't buying any of that stuff. So I'm very curious.
So your question is, why did it take you so long to figure it out, dumbass?
I just want to know if there was an enlightenment of some kind.
This very short version is that I was a Christian broadcaster for many years. I was the product of a devoutly Christian home. Raised in Christian school, everybody around me was a believer, and there were 2 major events. The first event was the death of a Christian artist in 1996. His name was Rich Mullins. I was charged to go on the radio and try to explain how his horrible death in a car accident was God's will. God brought him home. Of course, the events of 9/11 rattled many of our cages, and about 1,000 small things, culminating in a reading of the Bible objectively. It was the first time I had read the Bible, not as a love letter, but, hey, let's find out what's really in this thing, and let's question without fear. And once I began to question without fear, I began to see the problems, and I made my break. It has cost me a lot of relationships, especially the relationship with my parents. But I will say, outside of that, it has been the single greatest thing that has happened to me outside of my family. It has liberated my life. I'm free. And if you'd like to find out more, my book is called Deconverted, A Journey from Religion to Reason, available now. Yes.
Hi, my name is Karen. I'm very thankful for all your work. I've been listening to your podcast. It's been great, especially to Matt. Thank you for being here. My question is there such a thing as moderate Muslim? Is it harmful? And how do we deal with moderates? And should it be different with moderate Christians versus Islam, Hindu, and etc.?
I think that there's moderates for every religion, and it seems to be that the moderate or the reasonable ones are the ones that don't hold to all of it. They've left a lot of it behind, and so they call themselves moderate or reasonable based on how little of their faith they're still cling to, and versus how much of it they now reject. And a lot of people wear their religion much like the way they would the colors and insignia of their favorite sports team. It's very much a cultural thing. I've met so many people who don't actually believe, or don't appear to believe, what the actual doctrine is, but it's a cultural attachment. I've had people tell me that they hold to a religion because their lover is religious, or because their parents were, or because that's their culture, their community, and it would be racist to judge against that belief. But that doesn't make any sense. These are not reasons to believe. This is a cultural attachment, and is not. And I'm going to leave it there. You take over.
Well, thanks. I'm in agreement that you're going to find moderates and liberals everywhere. One of the things is to make sure that we address the issues and not people, and we address the actions that people take without necessarily painting with an incredibly broad brush. But having said that, and I'm going to divert to Christianity for a moment, there's over 1,000 denominations that all identify as Christian. They disagree on every single point of doctrine, right down to whether Jesus existed as a human being or not. Yet they all use pretty much the same label and point to the same holy book. And I will do my best to make sure I'm talking about ideas, but if you're standing next to the asshole I'm painting, you don't get to complain that you got some paint on you. And it's up to these individuals to distinguish themselves, and some of them have done it by, different denominations. Christianity got dragged kicking and screaming out of the Dark Ages by rational enlightenment thinking. And Islam is a younger religion. I think we're seeing some of that. There is some concern that Muslims are great and moderate wherever they don't have power, and where they have power it changes, but it's wrong to apply that to the individuals so much as the system that's in place. So I don't have the solution with how to deal with it other than to keep making sure that we're addressing issues and actions, that we're not assuming or painting everybody identically just because they happen to use the same label, and encourage them to start cleaning up their own house and make distinctions about who is who and who's not. They should be the ones standing up saying, that's not us. It's ironic in the United States in particular, some of the most vocal advocates for freedom of religion are the atheists. And it's because the majority opinion doesn't need to be protected. It's only minority opinions that do. And so those of us without a religion are constantly saying, yes, we need the freedom to not have a religion too, and we're protecting the religious freedoms of the others. We need other believers, irrespective of what label they're using, to stand up and say, hey, you know what? These guys over here that are complaining about religious privilege, that they're complaining about theocratic encroachment into politics, they're right. We're not like those other people too. They have work to do. We can't keep carrying the load.
Hi, thanks for your presentations. My name's Ted. If the invention of God is an attempt to explain why we're here, basically, wouldn't agnosticism be a more proper intellectual position than atheism?
If I may, most atheists are agnostic. Agnosticism means without knowledge, and really, if you think about it, nobody has knowledge of the supernatural, if that's one way of putting it. I'm one of those rare atheists that is Gnostic in the sense that I have reasons to say that I know that there is no God for the exact same reason that I know there's no Bigfoot, that I know that there's no reptiles that are using human guise and running our governments. These are all preposterous ideas that are not supported by anything. They are impossible according to the laws of physics because they all defy the laws of physics. That's what a miracle is. It's something that defies natural laws. And therefore, I don't have it's more than not having a reason to believe in God. We have all the failed prophecies. We have all these things that religion says that we can either not show as actually true or which we can prove are not true. And religion has a perfect failure rate on absolutely everything. So I can't believe a word of it.
There's also confusion about the labels themselves. I mean, agnostic and atheist are not mutually exclusive. One of them addresses belief, the other addresses knowledge, as he was saying. The example that I've used over and over again is the courtroom example, where God is being accused of existing, the prosecution is making the case, and you're on the jury. And if you are convinced that they've met their burden of proof, then you vote God guilty of existing. And if you are not convinced, then you would vote God not guilty, whether you think he's actually innocent and doesn't exist, or you're just not convinced. They both apply.
There's a misconception that atheism is a declaration that God does not exist, cannot exist. And I know everyone probably defines it a little bit differently, but atheism is a non-belief in deities. I'm not saying there can't be a God anywhere. If he shows up tomorrow, let's figure that out. I don't buy it because an examination...
Did I say, was my mic on? Oh,
No, people will often say, how can you have the arrogance to say that no God can exist? I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't believe because the evidence simply is not there. We've got tons of declarations and personal experience claims and anecdotal evidence, blah, blah, blah.
And the same people that tell me that I can't say that there's no God will confidently say that the gods of other religions are of the devil. How if I can't know this, you can't know that?
We can disprove specific gods that are claimed in specific books. You can go into the God of the Bible. You can go into where specific claims are made and can be measured and disproven. You can say, no, they don't exist. But this weird nebulous claim that somewhere out there might be a deity. I mean, if he shows up tomorrow, we'll figure that out. But there's just the onus, the burden of proof is on him, her, it, to show up and sort of ring the bell and let us know that they're here.
Hi guys, I'm Timothy, and I'd like to thank you all for giving your time to come speak to us out here in Australia.
Thanks.
We've heard a lot tonight about atheist activism and its importance, particularly in the social and political arenas. And I was wondering if you have any ideas on how we go about encouraging this without coming across as proselytizing or forcing atheism and all the other negatives that go along with doing just that.
So in the opening video, there's a clip of me saying that I'm proudly a proselytizing evangelical atheist. And I am. Here's the thing. On the TV show, I don't make outgoing calls. I let people call me. I have the conversation with the people who want it. I don't go door to door. You know, have you stopped believing in Jesus? I can help you. The fact that I'm advocating for a position, primarily the position that what they're pushing is not worth believing, doesn't mean that I'm on equal footing, and doesn't mean that I'm taking the same tactics. I'm engaging in the conversation with the people who want to have it and encouraging them to explore and to think about things rather than living in an echo chamber surrounded by people who believe the same things. That all of our positions should be tentative. They should be based on the best available evidence at the time. And as I do that, I find that even some of the people who others would write off as, oh, it's pointless to have a conversation with this individual, they can come around. I was not an idiot. I was not stupid when I was a Christian. My IQ did not go up when I found my way out. I just had better information and a better way of looking at information. And if people want to object to proselytizing on behalf of reason and skepticism, if people want to object that you're just like the fundamentalists because I'm actually engaged in encouraging people to think and ask questions, fuck them. I guess that's okay. I mean,
Right, I have to look at things from a scientific perspective. If you want to understand things, then you're not going to make empty assertions. You're not going to state as fact what is not evidently true. That is what all religions do, and that is dishonest. I mean, every claim that religion makes is either not evidently true or it's evidently not true. What we would advocate is for people to only state as fact, state as truth, what you can actually show to be true. If religion is true, show me that religion is true. If religion is not evidently true, don't pretend that it is. If people would just be honest, then this conversation wouldn't have to take place, or it wouldn't be a confrontation anyway.
Why are you so angry? Why are you so angry? Somebody must have hurt you along the way. Somebody wounded you, and you just met those people don't represent my faith. They don't represent my Jesus.
I got to tell you, you're right. You're right. And what happened to me was that I was a little kid and I was watching what I thought was a science documentary that was talking about Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, spirit photography, all these kinds of things. And it's, you know how the History Channel has been lately? I'm sitting here watching this thinking this is true. I get outraged when people lie to me. I think everybody should. And people ask me, why do you not go to church? I don't go to church because I don't like to be lied to. And that's what happens.
So now that we're living in the best of times, I mean, you were frustrated because how dare they put something on the television that's not true. I wanted to let you know we have the internet now and everything is true.
And he makes a good point, or there is a good point to be found in here, because a lot of people tell me that you can't trust what you see on the internet. That's right, and that's good. Because if we could trust what was on the internet, it would be easier to fool us. Knowing that whatever source we go to might in fact be wrong causes you to have to think critically about everything. And I think that's a really good thing.
I just like to see him get worked up.
Sometimes Seth and I work together.
We just tee it up and he drives it home. Who's next?
Hey guys, I'm Phil. First of all, like the beard, Matt.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I like the beard.
Oh, thank you. It used to be pink. Anybody see that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Should I go back?
You're the debater in the room, Matt. I know you got asked the same question at Skepticon. Just wondering, have you got any further luck into debating William Lane Craig?
Oh, yeah. So I have to eat a bit of crow. I just did a video kind of mocking someone who had kind of a world wrestling entertainment version idea of what debates should be. So they were on YouTube calling me out and saying I was a coward and a pansy and all this. And I talked about how unprofessional it was. And then I was reminded that that's pretty much what I did to Craig at Skepticon. Of course, the difference is there's a massive number of people who would love for Craig to debate me, and it hasn't happened. Now, I don't know if he knows who I am. I've talked to some of his people in conversations. Nothing new has come of that. Maybe we should start an email campaign to suggest that debate should happen, and then I'll do it.
My name's Cole. I'm a big fan of you guys. My question is, how do you combat somebody that is willfully ignorant? I've been talking to a lot of people who are into flat earth theory and hollow earth theory, and I imagine it'd be very similar to creationism.
Last month I debated a dinosaur denier.
And in San Antonio, I spent 3 nights debating Israel Rodriguez. You can watch them online. What happened in that church is the Church of Christ in San Antonio. My biggest complaint about what happened was not so much that there was ignorance, because you can fix that. It wasn't even so much that there was willful ignorance, because I think you can power your way through that eventually. There was a joyous celebration of encouraging others to be willfully ignorant as well. If you watch the videos from the first Unholy Trinity tour that we did, I talk about that a lot, so I won't go into it in detail. That is the trick. When I first found my way out, I was looking for the magic bullet argument that I could come up with that would convince everybody. Because I'm not particularly special. If I found my way out, everybody can. And I was working on a book that I wanted to be able to explain to my parents why I didn't believe. There is no magic bullet argument. People believe for different reasons. The various religions have different protective mechanisms. One of them is to encourage willful ignorance, to set up barriers so that when they begin to question and explore, there's a way to stop that. And when I went to my uncle, who was a missionary and a medical doctor, and I said, hey, I've got a roommate who's an atheist. I'm really trying to, talk to him about this because I don't want to get to heaven and have God say, why is this guy that you love like a brother in hell? And he said, oh, well, ask him where he gets his morals from. He can't have any objective moral standard. And I was like, duh, that's freaking brilliant. And I went off to go study that. And duh, that's freaking stupid. I didn't know much about it. Now, I don't think that everybody who is often labeled as willfully ignorant really is, but for those who are staunchly opposed to reason, my best course is to get away from the subject you're talking about, move to something that's analogous, and get them to recognize the sort of reasoning they use in this other situation, which should apply here, and then identify that they're violating that process. And there's more tips like that at my Patreon channel, Atheist Debates.
I've become fascinated by belief in the human brain. I was talking to Dr. Caleb Lack, who has done some writing on this, and they have a book called Why You Can't Trust Your Brain. And it's called Belief Perseverance. I come to you and I say, you're wrong. And your reaction is, know what? I'm right, you're doubly wrong. A defense mechanism takes place. I'd done some reading about Spinoza's conjecture, which was based on the Dutch philosopher Benedict Spinoza, who had talked about how it's easier to believe than disbelieve something, because the acknowledgement of something is like one step, and so you can believe it. Disbelieving it, going through the process of debunking it and whatnot, is an extra step. It actually is, it's harder to do. Belief comes easy. Knowledge might come after. And I've been interested to see how protective we become, as not just about religious beliefs, but almost any beliefs. We're all guilty of harboring those things, of sticking with our in-groups and sort of casting off the out-groups and whatnot. But there's a lot of great writing out there by Ryan Cragen, Caleb Black's book, and a few others out there that will help talk about belief in the human brain. And understanding those reactions help us to better empathize and to be able to better strategize as we're out there in the arena of ideas.
When we were arguing online, we had a friend of mine had somebody posting to them all kinds of false claims, and she comes back with the data and she says, well, this is incorrect because this point, proving every point wrong. But the response that she got was not, oh, my bad, I stand corrected. The response was, these may be what the facts are, but I prefer to believe this. And I think that's willful ignorance, isn't it?
And when you're in that situation, and I promise we'll get to another question, one of the things to acknowledge is that you may not be the person to talk to them. You're not going to change somebody's mind over the course of a single conversation, most likely, but you can plant little seeds. There are people whose minds will be changed when I say something to them as kind of the final straw in a long line of thought, and there's people whose minds won't be changed, and somebody else can come along and say the exact same thing later, and that will have an effect, because sometimes there's a personality barrier. Maybe I'm a jackass. All right, sometimes that's the case. But there's a number of things that go on in the process of making compelling arguments and making your case to someone. And sometimes you just got to set it aside, let it go on to something else, come back to it another time, or realize that, as much as you might try, you're not going to save everybody.
Okay, thank you. My name's Ian Bryce of the Secular Party of Australia. I've got a question for God. Now, we all know that the universe...
Where's that bathrobe?
The universe was created. The universe came into being 13 billion years ago. And God, you first made contact with intelligent beings a mere 2,000 years ago. So God, what did you do for the first 12.999998 billion years?
Well, first of all, I only made it look like it was billions of years. It was 6 days. And by the way, 1,000 years is like a blink of the eye to me. I loved the fact that I created time. I hadn't yet discovered masturbation, so I took a nap for a while, and then we went on from there.
Hi, my name is Matthew. Big fan of you guys. So I grew up in Poland, and it's a very conservative Catholic country. And one of the things that I remember quite well was going to masses on Sundays and just the ways that the priests were so manipulative of the people there, and they would extract money from them. And I'm sure this happens in America. And then, so I look at those people, evangelical preachers and so on. So I have a bit of a dilemma, because on one hand, I look at the people that are willing to give thousands of dollars to those preachers and to those priests. And I feel sorry for them, because they've been sort of manipulated into that sort of scenario. But on another hand, they are being they're being ignorant. So how would you answer that? Are they victims or are they suckers?
I actually look at them as victims. I was a victim. My parents were a victim. People say, well, aren't you mad at your parents for teaching you this stuff? No. They succumbed to the same irrational thinking that they were raised with. They tried to raise me the best way they knew how. There's a limit to how much I can fault them. I think that once they've been presented with the evidence, it's very disappointing that they might continue to believe that. There are people who extend this to the church as just, power and they're just controlling the masses. But the thing you have to remember is that the people who run the church are the people who used to also be sitting in the pews. We are all capable of making mistakes in thinking and then digging in and entrenching ourselves in things. And when you have ideas, religions are good about building community and attempting to meet the needs that we have as humans, the needs for community, the needs for answers about what happens after we're dead. It's completely understandable to me that somebody would believe, as I did and as others have, rather than be frustrated by not knowing. And I I don't necessarily view them as victims in a pity sense, but they are victims of our brains and the way our brains make mistakes and the way we as a community reinforce those mistakes.
The Bible says that the fool saith in his heart that there is no God. And it's not surprising that the Bible says that, because every other definitive source says that a fool is someone who too readily accepts improbable claims by credulous people on insufficient evidence. And that's what the Bible needs. So these people who believe in God are actually, by the definition in dictionaries, the fools. They have been fooled. And as I mentioned in my presentation, I consider it fraud when you are extorting money and support from people for financial or political gain and deceiving them in the process.
It's interesting to see that because if I'm hearing it right, you take a little bit of a softer approach. Would that be accurate, Matt? I mean, not a softer on religion, but as far as seeing the people as victims, and you just see them as crazy. Is that? Do you think that's right?
I know that both of you were once devout believers, and look who you are now. And this remains present in my mind. It wasn't always this way. You know, when I talk to people, I might blame them for holding ridiculous ideas, but now I understand. I have a better understanding, at least. So when I'm attacking somebody's beliefs, I'm certain that I might be talking to the next Seth and the next Matt. And so I want to encourage an understanding from that person. And it's easy to do in face-to-face conversations. Don't try it on the internet.
I've always said if there is a hell, it is the YouTube comment section. Where discourse goes to die. Who's next?
I will say, while we're getting to the next one, I'm so sorry. Some of us like to talk. And I am all of us. Talking about the Catholic Church and things like that, where there's money, maybe prosperity gospel stuff, where they're exploiting people. I'm much harder on the people who are doing the exploiting, because if you're going to be in that position of power where you have authority over people, I think you have a moral obligation to have educated yourself to the point where you should now be representing the truth and not representing your opinions as if they are true. And so there in that area, Aron and I are far closer. But when I think about like the Catholic Church, you know, for years they sold indulgences and then they stopped doing that. And, we've got popes who are saying things and then backing off of them. And then they get rid of limbo, the infallible popes. All of the popes who came before who were infallible got it wrong about limbo, so we're going to get rid of it. Outside of Scientology, I can't think of any religion that's more obviously a scam, whether or not the Christian God exists.
My family is Mormon.
All right, outside of Scientology and Mormonism, that was an obvious thing.
I always enjoy watching the Pope make a proclamation, and then you see about 50 bishops soil themselves, and then he comes out a few minutes later and says, actually, no, I'm sorry, that was really a mistake.
You atheists.
There was a time last year when he was coming forward, it sounded like he was being very magnanimous toward atheists, he was being inclusive, he was talking about non-heterosexuals, he was talking about divorcees taking communion, and we thought, hey, I kind of dig this cat, right? He seems kind of progressive. And then, after the new year, he just went batshit crazy and really was a regression of all the supposed progress that we have seen. He's talking about exorcism. He's going back to talking about marriage and a man and a woman and all those other types of things. I think I agree with both these guys about the leaders being in the crosshairs. What's tragic, I think, is that many of the people who are receiving the message are inhibited by fear. And they've been trained to be afraid to test the waters. Doubt is a sin. Cy Tim Bruggencate at the debate he did in Memphis. Matt did a great debate. Cy just said it. Doubt is a sin. You're not even allowed to have a doubt. Well, imagine living in that cage. I mean, how do you know what's true and what's false if you never test it, if you never doubt it? Doubt gives you the opportunity to test it and see if it is or isn't true. Doubt's not a sin. It's a tool. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Elena, and I have a question regarding the Middle East. I don't like to generalize, but I think it's kind of safe to say that overall the Middle East is behind the Western world when it comes to secularism or like liberal values, democracy, etc. And I think Kuwait is probably one of the few countries in the Middle East that actually have like a proper democracy. So do you think in our lifetime, say in 40 or 50 years, in general, it's possible that Middle East will resemble that of an average Western country when it comes to those kind of things?
Well, first of all generalizations are false. We're going to see more progress from, as he was talking about Islam as a younger religion, we're going to see more progress or at a faster rate than we did with Christianity because we have faster means of communication, we have better technology for that. It is an easier thing to do to find out what's right and wrong. I talked with a number of people who, like, for example, I recently interviewed someone who escaped from Kuwait from a life sentence of being disobedient to her husband, and so she was given a life sentence of house arrest under his rule, and she got away from that. She said that here in the I forget what country I'm in.
As the president of the Atheist Community of Australia.
That in countries where Sharia law is just a word, and it's not actually the force of government, that you have an increase in Islam converts. But within countries that are ruled by Sharia, you actually have, according to her, a deterioration because people understand that they're not able to say anything. And if you post something on your Facebook, it might be the death of you, or you might receive 50 lashes a week. People notice these things. And so eventually we're going to see change. And as I said, it took centuries for Christianity to come around, but it's not going to take that long for the Islamic nations.
In a nuclear world, I don't think it can take that long. Christianity's enlightenment over hundreds of years. And people are saying, well, Islam will get there eventually. And I was talking to Faisal Saeed al-Mutar of the global secular humanist movements, and he's like, we live in an age when ISIS would love to get their hands on a nuke. If they could wipe out 600 million people, they would, and they would do so. The weapons of mass destruction did not exist back in the medieval times, 13th, 14th century and whatnot. So not only will it change, or hopefully it will change, it must change because we simply don't have that long to wait for the Enlightenment in Islam to happen.
We also have great access to people like Ayn Hirsi Ali and Maryam Namazi and the Council of Ex-Muslims that are making great strides. So I'm very optimistic that the faster-paced world will get us there. I can't make predictions about the future without my bathrobe, dressing gown. Yeah, sorry. But I am incredibly optimistic, both with regard to my country and the world. And a lot of it has to do with the things that Seth talked about in his talk. Thanks.
Amen, brother. Amen. Who's next?
Hi, my name's Aron. My question relates to something that I've been noticing a lot since I sort of came out. This tendency for the religious to sort of say, how Dawkins is our God and evolution's our belief system and their books are our Bibles and, dare I say it, atheism's just another religion. What do you guys think is the source of this? Is it just projection or is there something a bit deeper, do you think?
What I notice when in any of these conversations I get into, we face the lies of equivocation and projection. Somehow they've got to establish the illusion of an equal playing field where we have all the facts and they're going to pretend that they have evidence too. Or if they have faith, then they're going to say, well, you have faith too. And it seems like they know that faith is a bad thing. Okay, and evidence to them seems to be simply assuming the conclusion, right? So we both have the same evidence. No, we don't, because evidence is defined as a body of facts that are exclusively supportive or concordant or indicative of one conclusion over any other. You can't have the same fact be indicative of two different mutually exclusive conclusions. And a religion isn't just anything you happen to believe in. It's not just anything that you happen to be passionate about. Religions, all of them that are universally accepted as religions, are a faith-based belief system which concerns the idea that some element of self, be it a soul or memories or past life remembrance or what have you, can somehow survive the death of the physical body and continue. And this applies even to Buddhists who say that they're not really a religion and don't believe these things, and then 10 minutes later say that they do.
So there's a clip you can probably look up. Tracy Harris, who's on the Atheist Experience with me, who is brilliant. Yeah. I can't even do her quote actually justice here, but it's something along the lines of, wait a minute, I just said that what you believe is bad, and your response is that mine's bad too? Do you really find that to be a satisfying defense of the criticisms that have been levied at you? Because first of all, you're wrong, it's not as bad, but it's an admission of defeat, and so I kind of giggle now when they say that. I'm ready.
Hi, my name's Edward, and my question is, just as science and humanity has overcome the so-called benefits of religion all throughout history, so ever since it started, at the rate that we're going right now, how long do you think it would take people convinced of religion, of being an authority on morals and the cause of the being, and having authority on like the meaning of life and such? How long do you think that will take to come to an end?
I didn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
How long do we think it'll take for religions to end?
I guess because religion has made claims about reality, fact and whatnot, and science and reason and stuff has chipped away at that pretty much.
Yeah, I have no hope of religions ever ending because I don't have too much hope that we'll ever become perfect thinkers. I'm more optimistic that they will become, that the modern big religions of today will become the rough equivalent of the flat earthers, you know, they're quaint, let's leave them over there and we don't need to worry about it too much. I'm more concerned about the impact they have on policy and the lives of the people who surround them. And I want that to diminish, and I am incredibly optimistic that will diminish significantly in my lifetime.
I would like to say religion is going to be replaced by some other form of woo. Okay, the problem is we need to be able to think skeptically and critically. The other problem is that we need to stop electing people based on whether or not they believe that snakes can talk. And if you believe impossible absurdities for no good reason, that does not qualify you to lead over people's lives. That should be the first rule of electing your officials.
I love it when it gets worked up. It's just awesome. I want to address something, if I may. I was talking to Dale McGowan from the Foundation Beyond Belief, and he said something along the lines, I hope I do him justice, but you know, one of the reasons we need to continue to be humanitarians and humanists out there, making the world a better place, alleviating poverty, alleviating suffering, helping people, loving people, making this world better, because we don't believe that manna will fall from heaven and magic is going to fix it one day, and there will be social justice when everything is all righted and aligned and there is equilibrium in the universe. The solution is us. It's all we got. And we have to continue. Another reason is because as long as there is poverty and hopelessness in this world, there will always be people who are constructing mechanisms for coping, and quite often those mechanisms have to do with God, right? If they are suffering and they see no hope for this life, a natural coping mechanism is to construct a deity who they can pray to and rely on in a happy place that they will one day go, and they have constructed the happy ending in their minds. And the tragedy is that decades of their lives will tick by, and then one day they will die. And these people deserve to be rescued today in the here and now, in the real world. That's one ticket to making woo and religious belief go away, is by promoting health and equality and rights and goodness in this world, so that people are no longer grasping at those particular straws.
And talking about the reasons that people believe in religions preying on fears. I did a talk in Illinois, and there were a couple of young Catholic guys in the back who, after asking me which worldview was more beautiful, theirs or mine, and I explained I don't give a damn which one you think is more beautiful, I care about what's true, they followed up with this common fear, which is, well, under their beliefs, they thought it was going to be more just, because under mine, someone could lead a terrible life and commit all kinds of crimes and ultimately get away with it, and there would be no ultimate sense of justice. And under theirs, there could be justice. And I said, well, first of all, under mine, you're right. Somebody could get away with something. It could be the case that justice doesn't get served in a given situation, which is why it's incumbent upon us to try to build the sort of society that encourages justice. And under your system, that person can have a last-minute conversion and go on to paradise while all the people that they slaughtered and whose lives they destroyed burn forever. So which one is more just and beautiful now?
Hello, my name is Schwarzkopf. I apologize if you cannot understand my accent.
Schwarzkopf, I got it.
I have been raised as what I think is an atheist all of my life. I've never had any religion interrupt. I think myself privileged. However, I went on with my life as per usual until I never thought of the atheism until I picked up two books, The Selfish Gene and I forgot the name of the other one. It's by Richard Dawkins, the one about evolution. Those two books inspired me to go on and change whatever I was studying, go into biology. However, it's just after learning that we may all be, and I'm sure there's other people who think this way, we may all be self-replicating objects. No different than any other material in the universe. If we are that, why should I even bother to do anything? I want answers. I don't know what to do. And
I think I have the answer to your question.
Other than pessimistic nihilism.
All right. When I explained to my family, evolutionary ideas and how evolution works and that sort of thing, they didn't care about any of the facts of the matter. They said, well, what is the meaning of life? And I thought that was a completely irrelevant question. It's like when you throw the tea leaves, when the old gypsy throws the tea leaves down, or they throw the chicken bones and they try to read your fortune. What does it mean, the way that they fell? Well, it doesn't mean anything. And I'm sorry that our existence doesn't mean anything either. If you want your life to have meaning, try making someone else's life meaningful.
Hi guys, my name's Nick Andrew. I don't know if you're aware of the situation here, but Australia and New Zealand do a census every 5 years, and the New Zealand one in particular shows about a 5% increase in the number of non-religious every single time they do it. This has been going on, I think, for the last 20 years or so. Australia's one is also quite high, not as high as New Zealand, I think, but likewise we see every single census an increase in the number of non-religious. Now, I recall a video that the Monty Python crew did back in the 70s, a TV interview, and that was the life of Brian against a couple of religious dudes whose names I don't recall. But that video is indicative to me of the sheer arrogance and undeserved privilege that the religious leaders used back in the day. But nowadays we can openly criticise them, and they don't get such undeserved respect. So I wanted to get your feeling, if you think that religion is going to suffer a sort of a collapse of support over the next few years.
Yes, I would like to see religious leaders held accountable for the claims that they make, especially in areas of education where we can prove that they are wrong, when they say that there's no transitional species and we can show that there are, when they say that there's no beneficial mutations and we can show that there are, and any other time that they make factual statements that are factually incorrect, or when they're pleading for the little old ladies to throw their medications up on stage because they've just been healed by the faith healers, any of those atrocities that go on, or any time that they spread measles again in Texas, in my state, because you had preachers on stage telling people not to get vaccinations because of these great plots of the evil enemy of whoever the hell they are, right? And then the same church then has to go encourage people to go get vaccinated because they got called out. That's what needs to happen. Did I do it?
And I think we should tax them into extinction.
Yes. Yes.
I think there is a phenomenon that's going to happen too as we see the claims, unsubstantiated claims, continue to be debunked. You're going to see religion, as it becomes less of a power, you're going to see these pockets become like a wounded animal. I think they're going to become desperate and crazy, and it's happening already. It has been happening for decades, but it just seems to be escalating. And I think what you're going to see is just these pockets of insanity are going to go through the roof. They're going to become wildly desperate. And the upside is the more they talk, the more we win. So I'm excited about that. Quickly.
Hello, my name's Chris. I have a dad who's a fundamentalist Christian of the young earth creationist variety. His Christmas present to me last year was a book called Evolution's Achilles Heel, written by a dude who's an MD. I don't know.
I like how I have to reference another fable.
Yeah. That's some whole other story. But I know, Matt, that you have talked about on the show your relationship with your dad and how you sort of have an agreement with him that you don't really talk about religion anymore. I have a slight problem. I'd kind of love to do that with my dad because it's hard to talk to him about religion, except he kind of doesn't talk about anything else. And I feel like it doesn't matter what conversation I try to have with him, he will bring God into it somehow, and why I should believe it too. So I just wonder, any of you have any suggestions as to how I might tactically steer away from this conversation or get him talking about something else for once?
So,
thank you.
I'll tell you what happened. My mom and my dad and I had agreed not to talk about it anymore, and just try to love each other and get back to some new normal, because we'll never get back to the old normal. And they love me, and they know I'm a decent person. That's pretty cool, because I know that their heads are constantly plagued with this. Holy crap, he's working for Satan and leading people to hell. But we know he does good things, and we love him, and we raised him right. And so after we agreed not to do this, my mother sent me a letter, an email in the middle of the night, and it was, all from a mother's love, and I wouldn't lie to you, son, there really is a God. And she went through all of the things that she believed. And I decided, well, you know what? We had agreed not to talk about this, and they know they're not necessarily equipped to dig in. But I'm just going to answer this email as if it came from anybody else. It came into the TV list. It wasn't my mom. It was just somebody. And I went through and I fixed that thing line by line, and this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is completely immoral, and I can't believe, they blah, 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 bam, 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 bam. And when I got done typing, I just clicked send. No proofreading. No, hey, maybe you should think about this for a minute. And after I clicked send, I was like, fuck, I just ruined my relationship with my mom for sure. And what I got back was, oh, honey, you're just like me. We're so logical. I had all those same objections, and Jesus fixed all of it. What I told them, my dad then forbid her to ever talk to me about it again. Now, if I didn't already despise their religion, the fact that my dad can forbid my mom to do anything, let alone have a conversation with her son, I almost don't have words for that. I'm still pissed about that. But I'm happy to not have the conversation. If my parents were more like yours, where they were pushing it all the time, then I would continue to reply as if they were somebody else. Not take it particularly easy, but it's up to you to decide what you're willing to risk in that relationship. And sometimes the relationship is more valuable than demonstrating why you're right or why you think they're wrong. And what I told them was, you believe in God, you believe God has a plan, you believe God answers prayer, you know that I would acknowledge if God actually did reveal himself to me. I'm not going to, God shows up and I'm just going to lie about it. So rather than putting the burden on yourself to try to convince me, which you won't, with testimony, another testimony, you should just stop and pray to God that he will reveal himself to me according to his plan. And as soon as I did that, everything got easier, because now the burden's where it should be, on the jackass who supposedly made the rules.
My family knows that we can have that conversation anytime they're ready. One of my family tried to push that conversation, and when it started, I got closed eyes, I got yelling, I got literally fingers in ears. This is from an adult. I had somebody, this family member called over the Mormon missionaries because I was told that I was criticizing something I didn't know about, and I needed to know what they really believed, because I had heard from other people what Mormons believe, and I never called myself a Mormon myself. So I said, you know what, you're right, that is hypocritical to criticize when I don't really know. So go ahead and bring them on. So they send over, I don't know why they call them elders when they're like 12, but I was 14 myself, and they were older than me, but they sent over 4 guys to sit down and talk about their religion. And yeah, it was bizarre. I just needed to hear from them, and I remember them saying that, like that God has a body, that he's a man, and he has a wife, and they live on this other planet. When you are a Mormon and you get married in the temple, you too will become a god. You'll have your own planet. I'm like, really? So you're telling me that God exists everywhere and every when and throughout time and the whole multiverse, and his arm extends this far? Does he have nipples? Why does he have lungs? What does he do with the body? Does he keep it under a tarp in the garage? I mean, when does he actually take it out for a drive? So when the Mormon missionaries left, I turned to my family and I said, okay, well, you guys believe X, X, and Y? And no, we don't believe that. That's ridiculous. Well, actually, the paper that they left me says that this is what you believe. Paper's ripped out of my hand, thrown in the trash. And that person got between me and the trash can and said, that is not what we believe. That person knows that that's what they believe. They won't admit it, even to themselves, even though they know that I know that they know.
As much as I hate to follow that and to elongate an already long answer at the end of the evening, there's something I have to say to you. I have been cheated out of a relationship with my mother and father because of religion. It was Father's Day a few years ago, and I sent a letter to my dad. We'd had years of debates and, just tears. And I sent him a letter, Dad, I love you and thank you for everything you've done for me and for everyone. And even though we disagree, I want you to know how much you mean to me. And it was an olive branch kind of a thing, I mean, he's 80. He doesn't have a whole lot of time left. And a day passed, and I got the response, and it said, there was a scripture or two, and it said, I'm sorry, son, but there can be no fellowship with an unbeliever. Yeah. And we didn't speak, for 8, 9 months. And I got some other messages just a few weeks ago. They just won't stop. That I feel you, right? And I finally just had to block the number. And I don't do that with any joy at all. But I have made a decision, and I encourage anyone who is receiving this type of treatment in their life, you have the right to draw the boundaries in your own circle, right? Someone can issue a concern. They are welcome to do that. They are not welcome to scratch on your door and to tell you you're broken, and to tell you you're foolish, and that you're ruining your kids and your grandkids, and that you were an embarrassment, and that you were ugly and shameful, and all of these things. They're not allowed to bring negativity into your life. Related, not related, mother, father, sibling, spouse, they do not have permission to bring negativity and inject it constantly into your life. And if they won't respect those boundaries, you have every right, as tragic as it is, to say, if you cannot abide by the guidelines I've set, If we cannot disagree here and celebrate all the other stuff that we do have in common, I must exclude you from my life because I want to surround myself with positive people and positive things. And honestly, family acts like family, and many times family will become the family you choose if you have to. I hope it doesn't come to that for you. But understand that if you get to a point where they play the family card, they're not allowed to infect you and to tell you that you are broken. And if you have to, just remember as you look around, there's plenty of family for you in this room, okay?
That's a great answer, Seth. Guys, we are really pushed for time. So what we might do is prioritize of the remaining questions. Are there any theists? Any theists with questions? Any theists with a question?
At this point, I hope not, because then now it'll be like an episode of the show where we talk to people for 50 minutes and then the theist calls in 5 minutes before the show's over. I want more time with you.
All right, we have time for one more question. Guys, sorry we couldn't get to everybody, but 2 more questions? Okay.
Hi guys, my name's Troy. I've been following Aron for 8 years since Don Exodus 2 led me to your page. Matt, I've been following your stuff for nearly 10 years. You guys are legends in my eyes. Love you so much. Since I'm going to be quick, I might change my answer, a question a little bit then. A question we've all been thinking of, let's be honest guys. Aron, what hair products do you use? It's beautiful. It's just...
You guys are going to be really sorry about my answer. I use shampoo that was designed for horses.
Oh! I'll ask a quick real question then, sorry guys. Leave it on a good note because we're going through a lot of hard stuff today. Do you have any one great experience that's kind of just the greatest experience you've had for your atheist movement or your movement forward? Something that's been fulfilling for you in all this, something that's stood out?
For me, it was the Reason Rally. You're talking about a fulfilling experience in this movement? It was an event in the Washington Mall in Washington, D.C. in, was it 2013? Where people came from all over. Was it 2012? Yeah. Came from all over the country to converge on the National Mall. Was it 30,000 people or so converged out there? And that was my Woodstock, you know. I got on the plane by myself and went out and spent the day there. And I left with my chest swelling with pride because I was surrounded by people who didn't think I was broken and crazy. And
there was probably just as much weed.
It's medicinal.
I didn't mean to cut you.
I'm done.
So I'd love to get the cheap round of applause and say that this moment is that moment. And in some ways it is, because after 10 years of doing the show, I'm now a professional godless heathen where I'm producing videos and people are graciously sponsoring it so that I have more time to do more talks and hopefully many more debates. But there's one moment that just always sticks in my mind, and it comes up because I'm so often asked, why do you do this? Isn't this futile? Not only do I have thousands of emails from people coming into the show saying, oh, thanks for the show or the debates or whatever, because I used to be a fundamentalist or I used to be this, or I wasn't a skeptic or I identified some other way, and you've helped me or you've helped the arguments get better, which is great. But I went to a debate in Amarillo, Texas, and when it was over, a 13-year-old girl came up, and her parents were non-theists, but they had allowed her to explore the world of religions. And she had been to various churches and various events and was toying around with things. And she came up and she explained all this to me. And she said, because of the debate tonight, I'm now identifying as an atheist. And if I only ever had convinced one person the last decade of work, that had been enough. But it's so telling that the people who think, oh, you're just wasting your time and nothing's ever going to get better, it made me incredibly optimistic about the future, about how many more people are not going to have to wait till they're frickin' 30 or something like I did before they get around to investigating this. And if one person was enough, every single place that I go, somebody, and several somebodies usually, is coming up to say, oh, you know, what Tracy did on the show or Russell did on the show or somebody did, they said this and it really helped. My life not only got better, after giving up religion, I was better as a human being, although I'll still poke fun at God. But everything about my life is just about as good as I could hope without, having like ridiculous, let me win the lottery and get a car with it. That stuff doesn't even appeal to me as much anymore. And that moment was, that was probably the one.
I gotta throw something else in. I have much the same thing. I'm now doing atheism full time, and even prior to that, when I started doing these speaking things, and when people actually wanted to hear my opinion on these matters, and I've been doing all of this work. I remember telling my boss when I was still working in this office, I said, my job interferes with my work, and I talked to a friend of mine that I'd known since high school, and I said, well, this is really great. I'm going to these places, I'm doing all this stuff, I'm involved, and I'm meeting all these famous people, and often associated with some of the greatest minds that I respect so much. And she says, wow, this atheism thing is really working out for you. See, God does have a plan.
I'm David. I guess my question might be a bit long, but quick answers are good. It was mainly about things related to atheism, but not atheism. So something I'm sure Seth and Matt might relate, growing up in a Christian background like myself. But when you learn about another topic and then you realise it clashes with your atheist views, and you probably didn't realise that topic clashed. My example was I studied creativity and found out when we first walked in that most people hold the belief that creativity is a gift from God. And I had never really even thought about the topic, but then that course sort of delved into the aspects of it. My question basically is, are there things like that you might have experienced where you suddenly realised you held a belief that you hadn't even thought about, and it conflicted with the fact you were saying you were an atheist?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into specifics. The short answer, because I know you've been waiting forever, and I want to get to you. I know we said 2, but I think she thought she was the second one. So I did tons and tons of Bible study and stuff, and ended up changing my mind. I continue to do Bible study. I continue to interact. But I started figuring out that a lot of the things that I thought I understood, I was wrong about. And one of the, you're in church and you're singing and praising, and you feel the presence of the Holy Spirit. Well, why? What is that? The only reason that you think it's the Holy Spirit is because everybody around you is telling you, oh, that's the Holy Spirit. Well, they don't know any more than you do. And it turns out, when I went out to explore the world, that same type of experience comes from the secular music that I wasn't supposed to listen to, from art, from sex, from drugs. They're the same kind of qualities of experience, this euphoria, this joy. And that prompted me to start investigating all of the other positions I have. There are things that I changed my mind on, like feminism, like abortion rights, all sorts. There are things that I haven't changed my mind on, like it's wrong to kill people and own people. It's incredibly liberating to be able to actually think and consider these things.
That was short.
I'll try to keep it quick. First, I just wanted to reinforce what everyone's been saying. Thank you so much for coming, guys.
Thank you.
You've all had a part in my personal deconversion, especially you, Seth. Your work has meant a lot to me, so thank you. It was mentioned earlier that the main thing we would lose if religion disappeared was comic material for comedians and wonderful speakers like yourselves. I don't know if I'm alone in the room saying we could say the same about our current government. We are just starting into an election season, and I don't know about everyone else's area, but in my personal town region, the Christian Party has gotten a very loud voice. And I was just wondering if you had any opinions. I know that, separation of church and state is a big problem in the US, and I was wondering if you had any ideas on what we could do to try and kind of spread the idea that it's not a great thing to have religion governing our country.
I'm of the opinion, and I'm just one opinion of many, that it is not a top-down solution. I honestly think the solution to falsehoods, religious falsehoods promoted in government, is not we start with trying to elect secular people, or I think a sea change must happen in the culture. The highest offices in the land will not really change unless the constituency that they reflect changes. And I would like to see that sort of happen first. That's sort of my perspective.
I'd like to add to that the religious groups, the churches are tax exempt because they're not supposed to lobby, but they do. They all do, right, as so far as I know. I mean, and many of them very overtly. And we know that religious factions vote as a bloc, typically in my country. And we had a devastatingly bad election season for two reasons. One, the religious are lobbied together this way, unified. And we had a whole lot of people, I think 60% of our populace, that decided that their vote didn't count. That's an overwhelming majority that said their vote didn't count. And this showed that their vote really would have counted had there been a vote to count. So please vote.
And I will do really short. I have to vote here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You have to vote.
So Aron didn't get the pamphlet about studying up for Australia. No. I will say, you're looking for some way to potentially solve this. I don't know if what I'm going to suggest is as valuable here as it is in my country. And that is be out and participate and challenge these things. First of all, it's very difficult for people to vilify an other members of a group who they know and like, and finding out that your next door neighbor who you've liked for 20 years has a very different opinion from you on the matter of religion or any other thing is enlightening. And it challenges people to say, hey, wait a minute, this person's not evil. It's the problem that I talked about my parents having to go through in their head, reconciling me working with Satan with generally being a decent guy. And, all right, mostly a decent guy. But being out changes all kinds of things. And it may be easier here, and you may not deal with some of the same hardcore fundamentalist issues on a regular basis that we do, but it's still important. And like I alluded to earlier, the reason that we do this is to try to encourage communities to not just have fun, don't just get your fix of atheism and go back home, but to actually get involved and participate, because groups like the AFA have positions and are trying to build the sort of coalition that can actually work to actively stop the things that you were asking about.
Hi guys, my name is Elaine. I've been in the process of unbelieving for a number of years now, for many reasons, but they're more to do with my values and beliefs clashing with religion, and I think also an embodied feeling of disgust about religion. But obviously you guys, you've done a lot of footwork in the realms of science and you know the Bible inside out. My knowledge of the Bible is actually really poor, even though I was raised Catholic. So in many ways, I am putting my trust in you guys for having done the footwork, and my partner who's here tonight, who's very passionate on the topic. So, am I a lazy, non-critical thinking atheist? And how do you feel about that?
I can hear you thinking.
But,
I can hear him thinking.
So, I want a world where people are as rational as possible, and I'd love a world where there are as many out atheists as we can get and as needed, but it's not right for everybody. While I engage in lots of debates, I don't want everybody out there engaging debates because not everybody has the same skill set. There are people who are good at certain things and not. My former roommate, who I was desperate to save, who is the reason that I'm an atheist, and I love like a brother, is kind of apathetic about a lot of this. He's got a life to live. He's got the things that are important to him, and he's got issues that he's focusing on. He loves what I do, he supports what I do, but he's not involved. And I don't fault him one bit. If I weren't passionately driven to constantly go after this, I would spend more time playing video games, I would spend more time engaging in activities with my wife and sometimes playing video games. I want people who are passionate about these things working alongside of us. And if there are quiet supporters who perhaps aren't as comfortable arguing, who, wow, I don't know the Bible as well as some of these other people who may be a little nervous about engaging, when I said yes, I was joking. You may be a wonderful critical thinker, and you're probably a wonderful person. And when I talked about getting involved, there are other ways of getting involved, which involves supporting the organizations, making sure that you're voting in accordance with the things that you want and those things. I don't fault you and wouldn't dare. So sleep well. Because I'm God.
Just that I think I am actually struggling with that concept.
Yeah, I blanch a little bit when I hear the phrase, put your trust in us. I think to myself, don't trust me. You know, I've done many presentations, radio shows where we'll give a presentation with data, and I'll say, don't take my word for it. Go check this stuff out, go Google it. You'd be amazed at the stuff that people find, and I'll have to go back and make a correction, and they make me better. We make each other better. Don't follow us in that sense. I always say it this way, no one's saying we have the answers. We're reminding that our friends in this room and on the internet that it's okay to ask the questions. And we are encouragers. You know, we want to be part of the conversation just as you are qualified to be part of the conversation. We all have a right to be a part of the conversation and to ask these questions because it's so critical to our very existence. So I guess that makes for a fitting sort of a cap to the evening because it is my encouragement to everyone in this room. You know, we are not saying we have all the answers. We're not even close. We are saying it's okay to be curious, to live a life full of discovery, to question everything, to make every day sort of an adventure where you're not inhibited, you're not chained, you're not bound by guilt and shame and all these rules, but you can say, I want to go out and find out what the truth is every single day and define my life with that sort of method. And it's a liberating, amazing, beautiful, fantastic thing, and it's something that we can share together, and that would be my encouragement for you. To the Atheist Foundation of Australia, we must say a huge thank you, and to everyone in this room. I know many have been so gracious with their words about how they've been encouraged by our sites and shows and videos, and that we'll ride that wave all the way back to the States and for 6 more months. But please understand what an encouragement you are to us. You are what we do doesn't work without you. You have become really members of our family. And we've been given the privilege, thanks to the AFA, to cross an ocean and get a chance to meet you in person tonight. It's been a huge privilege. And thank you very, very much for having us. You are awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Seth Andrews, Aron, Matt Dillahunty, the Unholy Trinity Down Under.